Let's continue working on this meal wheel app that's in very rough shape. And what I'd like us to work on today is improving the way we handle the data, which is the set of restaurants, the model. We have this real clunky interface right now where we've got a local variable restaurants, which is an array in our view controller, and we've appended Taco Bell. I don't like this. This is a lot of work to deal with. Let's improve it. Let's go into restaurant first of all, and let us write an init method that will allow us to construct one of these and pass in all the initial values. That would really help us for what we're doing. So I'm going to create an init, and this init is going to take a name of type string and a phone of type string. Basically what I'm doing is mirroring what the main built-in fields are. So we need a website parameter that's of type string. We need a description it's of type string. We need a type, it's type string. We need a star rating of type double. We need an is drive-through type bool. We need a delivers of type bool. We need a cost of type cost tier. And let's take in a lat and a long as doubles. I'm going to call this latitude because I just like spelling that word out. And this is of type, we're going to call it double for now. And we're going to have a longitude that's of type double as well. That is our init. What happens in this method? I just want to set all of those instance variables to the values that I pass in. Notice though that the names of the arguments are exactly the same as the instance variables. So I need to be able to disambiguate between them. So I want to say self, which is a reference to this object, self dot name equals name. Self dot phone equals phone. Self dot, you see where I'm going here. This is kind of boring, but it'll be nice to set this up once and it'll save us a lot of typing later on. Self dot website, sorry, equals website. Self dot description equals description. Self dot type equals type. Self dot star rating equals star rating. I'm sorry this is so boring. Self dot is drive through equals is drive through. Self dot delivers equals delivers. Self dot cost equals cost. And self dot lat and long. Let me go ahead and fix this because this is not the way we want to store locations. We'd like to use a built-in data type that's kind of the native way that iOS uses lat and long. To do that, I've got to change restaurant just a little bit. I want to use something called I want to use something that's from the core location. So I could import core location here, and then I'm going to change this. Instead of being two doubles, I want a var cl location. Oh, sorry, yeah, I need location, which is of type cl location. Sorry. So that then will encapsulate lat and long and some other stuff. So that now I can take out lat and long and just use that. Does that make sense? I am going to, maybe this is a mistake, I don't know. I was going to try to help out on this initializer, allow you to pass in two doubles and then create the location object from that. It may actually be a structure. I'm not sure. So I want to say that self.location equals CL location, and I'm going to use this initializer that it has, where you pass in a latitude, which is of data type CL location degrees, and a longitude that's of data type CL location degrees. I think CL location degrees are just a wrapper around doubles, basically. So I think we're safe to convert those. But I'm going to take this one. I'm going to set the latitude equal to latitude, the longitude equal to, oops, I'm going to tab over longitude. And let's see if that builds. I'm going to press Command B to build. Ah, it's angry with me. So I'm going to go over here to errors. Oh, okay, that's okay. So this is an error saying this initializer isn't available anymore. You're supposed to pass in all those things. So let's finish what we're doing. Press back. But this seems okay. So this is our initializer. So now when we call init, we're going to pass in the initial values for all those things.
Did you have to have any delegates for that? Mine's not recognizing CL location.
I had to import core location.
Oh.
It is an object that's defined in a different class, a different framework. Now, I'm still not doing anything with hours per day. I don't want to take that in really on initialization. We'll have to come back later and fill that in. But we've got the rest of it, and that's an improvement at least. I would like to come back over to the home view controller. Are y'all ready to do that? And this is not the way that we initialize restaurant objects anymore. Instead, just going to comment all this out. Now, if we want to initialize a restaurant object, we'd say var. Or actually, we can let Taco Bell equal restaurant here, open parenthesis, and then Xcode is going to help us out with some autocomplete. I would take this. I think it's really nice that it gives you all these hints. In other languages where you don't have name parameters, it may be hard to remember what the order is, but Swift is really nice because it requires name parameters. That you, kind of is a self-documenting sort of thing. So I'm going to press enter, and when you are in this mode, you can just tab through, and it'll go to the next field that you need to type in. So I'm going to type in Taco Bell, tab, to get to the next thing that I need to fill in, skipping over the name of the parameter. Yes, sir?
In these projects, you never have to import or include your Swift model files. They're like self-included,
right? Swift is nice. It knows anything that you're working on is all in the same like namespace, and the compiler will find that for you. You don't have to manually import that. Yeah, let's save you that. So putting in this core information, decent fast food, type, fast, Mexican food, star rating, 4.32, is drive-through, true, delivers, false, unfortunately. Cost is, we can say .cheap. And the lat, I'm just going to make these up. I don't know what they really are. Okay. Well, let's see what I've done wrong here. Oh wait, no, this is compiling fine. It's just saying you made this constant Taco Bell and you never used it. You should get rid of it if you're not going to use it. We're going to use it, we just haven't yet. So now we would say restaurant restaurants.append
and head out.
Taco Bell. Thing is, I think all of this data functionality would be better organized if it existed outside of this class. So what I'd like to do is to create an external object class that's a data set that will hold this dummy data for us. Later on, it might actually connect to a database or some kind of web service and get the live data for us. So to do that, I'm going to click on Meal Wheel to make sure that the file goes in that folder. I'm going to say File, New, File. And I'm going to create, under iOS, a source file, Swift, and I'd like it to be called DataSet. I'm going to put a capital S in set.
This is like a restaurant build, list building, kind of, but
It's going to hold a collection of restaurants. So I'm going to create a class called DataSet.
good goal of the world.
I think I like DataSet better. I considered several different ways of doing this, and this is where I've come currently as the best way of doing this. What we're doing is kind of creating this artificial database, and I don't really want to have to create a database, a data set object in order to use this fake data. So what instead I decided to do was to create a static property. So static means that it exists statically without instantiating a data set object. It's another way of saying it's a class instance. So I'm going to say static var dummy data set. And this property is going to be of type an array of restaurants. And I'm going to initialize it using this trick that we learned in the video where we basically call this closure that this code will run. I'm going to just instantiate a bunch of restaurant objects and then add them to an array and return that array.
This is a closure.
Yes. So first I'm going to let Taco Bell be a restaurant, and it's going to be Taco Bell. This is familiar, right? Instead of typing all this again, since I just typed it, will you let me come back here to the home view controller and copy this? Yes, you will? Thank you. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it right here. And just so you get an idea, I think I'm having this error because I'm not returning anything. Yeah. I'm going to let restaurants be an array of restaurant. And it will be equal to Taco Bell. And then I'm going to return restaurants. Sorry, spell restaurants right. It's a tricky one for me. You see what I'm doing there? Only I'd really like to have several restaurants. So I'm going to copy that, paste it a few times, and name them something else like McDonald's and Dairy Queen and Sonic and Chow Wagon and I got Dairy Queen,
Yes.
Jack's, and one more, Subway. And at the very least, I'm going to change the name of these restaurants because that's all I'm showing. That one's right. McDonald's, Dairy Queen, Sonic, Shellwagon, Jax, and Subway. And now when I instantiate this array, which is actually, I took some care to make these constants because I knew they were never going to change. So each of the restaurants is a constant, it's immutable, and the array of restaurants is also a constant. Because it is a constant and I want it to be a constant, I couldn't append each time. I have to have all the objects and pass them in when I create it. So this would be McD, DQ, Sonic, CW, Jax, and Subway. Oh, so you gotta have commas between them. So now if I want to use this static property, that is initialized like so, I can use it anywhere else and just say dataset.dummyDataset, and I'll get this array back, which I think is a very clean way of dealing with it. So once we have this, I'm going to go back to the home controller, and I'm going to delete all this. I'm even going to delete this, because all that model stuff is going to be stored elsewhere, and even that collection of my models we're going to offload to that data set. We do need to change this down here so that we can pass in to the destination view controller, the restaurant view controller, a specific restaurant from the list. So to do that, I'll just say dataset.dummyDataset. So because it was static, I can do this. If it wasn't static, then I'd have to say var d equals dataset and then say d dot dummyDataset for an instance method or an instance property. So I want to say dummyDataset, and let's just get the second one out. I know that I have 3, so this is still a little bit scary, but let's just try it. We should get something that's not Taco Bell this time. Dairy Queen, awesome. We should always get Dairy Queen because it's always the third one in that array. Nice. Questions on this up to this point? Wouldn't it be cool if we had a random restaurant instead of always Dairy Queen?
Perhaps we should do that next.
Perhaps we should. So I'm going to insert right here a random number generated generation statement. So we can get a random number. We need it to be a number that is an index in the array into the dummy data set. As I emailed you, there's a nice built-in function called arc4random_uniform that will return a value between 0 and 1 minus the value that you pass in. So let's do that. So we're going to have a var random index that's equal to arc4random_uniform. And I'm going to have some data type issues, but go with me on this. I want to pass in here essentially the number that's 1 bigger than the thing that I want.
Yeah, it's a 0 base.
So I know what that is because it's the length or the count of the dummy data set. So I'm going to say dataset.dummydataset.count. All right, there's a problem with that, and that is
Unsigned integers.
this inside thing is this count is supposed to be an unsigned int 32. So I can fix that by saying uint32 parenthesis and surrounding this whole thing, and that'll cast that. All right, now instead of this 2, I want to use the random index. Uh-oh. And what this returns is also a uint32, and I want it to be an int. So I'm going to surround this whole thing with int. Xcode is also nice enough to say, hey, you're not changing that thing, so it should probably be a let instead of a var. I think Xcode is right, so I will change that. Thank you, Xcode. So let's build that, and let's see. This ought to be enough to get a random restaurant every time we press the button. Yay! It's exciting, isn't it? It really feels real now. This thing just got real.
It's done. We're done.
So where are we going to eat after this?
I don't know. Let's see. McDonald's.
Oh,
Yeah.
try again. Try again.
I think that's going to be useful. It's just going to be another, keep randomizing and go back until you get the one you want. Like, okay, that sounds good.
It
No,
does
it'll
help
have
to decide.
tokens.
It's still either way you're deciding.
Yeah, that's true. It does help to be like, oh, I actually did want that.
So it should have like tokens, and you only have so many times you can hit the button, and if you want to do it more because you don't like what it takes, you gotta pay for it.
Okay. I thought of a different UI that I thought we should at least consider. This segue is it's called a push, and you push the second view controller on top of the first. I wonder how this would look if there was more like a modal pop-up. Jesse says no, but let's just see it. To do that, we'll go to the storyboard. We're going to click on this segue, which is the segue from this button to this other view controller. And we can change the segue from push to present modally. This is going to be a little weird, but I think it's just something to consider if this is an appropriate kind of conceptual model for this app. So now when you press the button, it kind of pops up from the top.
Well, that's
Now
okay.
you can't go back.
But now you cannot get out because there's no button that dismisses this popover. So we definitely have to add that if this was the interface that we wanted to adopt.
We leave it like this so they have to go to that restaurant.
So this way you'd have to close the app.
Yeah, there you go. That makes it annoying so they can't re-hit the button.
And then in the future, when there's these cars that drive themselves like they kind of have now, so we were talking about that, like Steve Browning, remember he was talking about his car driving himself, then we can just start hijacking people's cars.
No options.
I think I'm going to change this back to
I didn't mind it, I thought you meant
Push.
like a
Hmm.
little modal on top of that.
See, it's still modal in its. Sorry. Tyler did mention here that the present modally has some different types of presentation and some different He likes cross dissolve. Let's check it out. So that's just a different transition from when the click on the button to when the modal appears. Does that feel more fun? Let's just to make that more interesting, let's get a button and drag it out here.
You're not giving them the option to go back.
Oh yeah. And let me just put a little bit on here. So this will be placed, right? And then let's call this, actually if I'm going to do that, I should probably put my X top right. Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, it's a weird looking X. So I want to put this X in the top right. And in order to do that, I'm going to delete all those constraints that I just added. I'm going to click on them and press delete. And this one, I want to give it vertical spacing to top layout guide and a trailing spacing to container margin. Wait, what is that? Align center. What?
Did they used to do it where you had to do multiple views for different devices?
I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay. And now I want this button, which needs to be way bigger, really. It's not going to be clickable.
Also, font families, why are they sometimes not there? Do you have to install font families yourself?
These are the fonts that are built into iOS.
Yeah, but I can't select any.
Okay, to change the font, you come here, change it to custom,
Oh, okay, you have to do custom.
and then you can get to, any of these that are built into iOS.
Okay, well, thank you. That makes more sense.
You should change it
Is there a bit built in?
if you ever one of the videos, I'm just gonna remember.
Okay, well, I'm going to do it the way I know, which is like this. I'm going to see this view controller, the restaurant view controller, and I'm going to create an action. So I'm going to control drag from this X to create a new action. It's called, well, I will change it to UI button, touch up inside, and the name is close. And here I'm going to say self.dismiss view controller animated, and I'm going to say true. And nil. I could run some code in this completion piece right here, a closure that would run after it completes. I don't care to do that. So that should be enough to at least get us this back functionality, I believe.
Yeah, it's so weird. Here's what's empty. When I click on an exit in this other program, it says unwind to BC is a thing that pops up.
So that shows you just a little bit more interface options of a different segue. And that dismiss will work regardless of what the segue is. So even if we have, or even regardless of what the transition is. Now we still have quite a few other things to do on this app to make it more usable. As I see it, well, for one, we haven't done the filter at all. So we'll need to add in that whole filter view and the button that adds the filter view. We'll need to integrate maps, which there's a special framework from Apple called MapKit that handles displaying of maps. We'll have to actually do the filter functionality on the data set. And we also need to clean up, that is complete, a lot more of the view components inside the restaurant, like all the stars, all those data fields, the calling, opening the site, and all that. And we'll continue working on that next week. Do you have any questions about what we did today with the data set or with this segue stuff?